Okay, so that's the last one, I guess, for this series. Yeah, and then we've got a 1 week break, and then I think we're doing something a little different next time. Instead of everyday Dharma, I think was what Sean called that series. I'm calling it, we're doing transforming problems, which is basically the same thing, but using Lama Zopa Rinpoche's book. Where is it? It's funny, I pulled it out. I thought I pulled it out. Okay, maybe it's in my office. Anyway, transforming problems into happiness. So that'll be the next series. Anyway, all the links and everything will be online and in the Kurukulla this week and everything. Okay, so so tonight we're going to practice the Guru Shakyamuni Buddha sadhana, daily meditation on. I don't know if you can see that. Maybe not. Can you see that? Doesn't show up very well for me. Oh, never mind. Anyway, I'll send it out to anybody who wants it. So I've talked about sadhanas, method of accomplishment, when talking about different meditation practices. So this is a sadhana on Shakyamuni Buddha, and this can be done without initiation. So I thought we'll run through that today. So we'll just start with a little meditation on the breath. I think I said we're going to start with questions if there are any questions from the previous weeks. So let's do a couple of meditation minutes on the breath, and then we'll see if I'll see if there are any questions arising from the things we've done over the last few weeks, especially the inner fire that we did last week, like that. Okay, so just sit in a good meditation posture. Find your breath going out, coming in through your nostrils. Just focus there, and then, with strong determination, keep your mind on your breath for 2 or 3 minutes. Okay, so think the purpose of my life is to lead all sentient beings from suffering to enlightenment. In order to do that, first I have to reach enlightenment myself. And my reaching enlightenment depends on completing, studying, meditating on and completing, realizing the path to enlightenment, all the steps. So in order to do that, I need to learn how to meditate. Therefore, I'm going to participate in this class on how to meditate in order to reach enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. So very briefly like that, let's generate bodhicitta motivation for this evening's session. Okay, so as promised, any questions from last week or previous classes on any meditation breakthroughs to report? Anybody see light?
I'll ask a question.
Sure.
Sometimes inner fire, there are, in the teachings, it says you shouldn't learn it from a book, you should learn it from a teacher, although it is published in, I guess, in Big Love and also in the book How to Meditate. So I'm wondering how those two things go together.
Where does it say that?
Oh, I think in Lama Yeshe's book, The Bliss of Inner Fire, it says to be a little bit careful that if you do some things incorrectly, you can, I don't know, cause blockages in the wind that cause problems.
Right. So this, yeah, it's true. This is a meditation. The inner fire is a practice from actually completion stage of highest yoga tantra, where we're working with the winds and the channels. So as such, it you know, traditionally was kept secret and could only be practiced by those who'd had initiation and teachings from a qualified Vajra master. And the teachings in the Bliss of Inner Fire were edited from a couple of teachings Lama Yeshe gave, one in Italy at the end of 82, beginning of 83, and another one in Vajrapani Institute in California in the summer of 83. So those teachings were combined and edited by Venerable Robina and Venerable Ailsa Cameron into that book. And they had worked on a couple of other books of Lama Zopa Rinpoche's. There's this one, The Door to Satisfaction. Door to Satisfaction was edited by Venerable Robina and Venerable Ailsa. And then this other one that we're starting the week after next, Transforming Problems. I'm not sure if they both edited or just Ailsa edited that one. I don't have it here, as I said. It must be in my office. So that was in about early 90s at Wisdom, and then we asked Lama Zopa Rinpoche which of Lama Yeshe's many teachings should we publish next. And to our surprise, because it was quite a secret sort of teaching, the Six Yogas of Naropa. So the Six Yogas of Naropa, I can't remember all the six, but the Inner Fire is the first of the six anyway. Glenn Mullen has published a couple of books of Lama Tsongkhapa's teachings on the Six Yogas of Naropa. I think Snowline published those. So Lama called it the Six Yogas of Naropa. And in fact, if you look online, there's a 9-round breathing meditation taught by His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. And he starts by having the audience do some of these yogas from the Six Yogas, the physical yogas from Six Yogas of Naropa. If you look up on YouTube, Dalai Lama 9-round breathing meditation. So before that, he gets people to it's kind of loosening up your these channels that I've been talking about. So so we were surprised that Rinpoche said to do that one, but it was kind of the heart teaching of Lama Yeshe, and it comes from the Lama Yeshe's. So have you heard the Tibetan word yidam, or mind-bound deity? Bound to your mind, bound like with rope, mind-bound deity, yidam. So that's the Lama Yeshe called it your favorite deity. Sometimes he'd mix up flavor and favorite, your favorite deity. I don't know if he was mixing it up or not doing it on purpose, but that's how it came out. And in the Tibetan tradition, in the Vajrayana tradition, there are hundreds and hundreds of deities, and there are texts on the collections. One called Rinjung Gyatso, which is I think over 500, a collection of practices of over 500 deities. And back in 82, Lama Yeshe organized the first of what he called the Dharma Celebrations. Originally, it was in 82. There were about over 100 monks and nuns, Western monks and nuns, in FPMT, and we'd started off as a small Western monastic community at Kopan in Nepal. But then Lama started traveling, and centers started cropping up here and there around the world, and monks and nuns in the East were running out of money, and the centers in the West needed slave labor. So some of the monks and nuns who had to leave India, Lama Yeshe sent them to different centers to work there and help establish the centers, give some teachings, lead the meditations, and be supported. and he always said that, the purpose of the Western monks and nuns is to become teachers and to teach the Dharma in their own countries or around the world. So by the early 80s, there were two things. First, we'd bought this property in France. There was a centre in France that was bought in 77, 78. It's called the Vajrayogini Institute. We bought that in late 70s, and there were some teachings given there. At a certain point, I think in maybe 79 or 80, there was a fire in the West Wing, which did quite a bit of damage. And the director was Jewish, but I believe it was an accident. But there was quite a big, I can say that because I'm Jewish, and there's quite a good insurance payout. So the director, Elizabeth, the Venerable Elizabeth, took that money and she bought another property about 10, 15 minutes away and in her mind, she wanted to establish a nunnery for Western nuns. But Lama Yeshe said, it's good to buy it, but it'd be better if it was for monks. So, so this was before the Me Too movement. So the monks got the building, and it's become Nalanda Monastery. But there were very few. There were very few monks lining up to go there, and the building itself was a little run down. But it had potential. So partly to kind of juice up the monks' interest in going there and developing this monastic community at Nalanda, and partly to bring together his far-flung Sangha, the monks and nuns, who were all over the world at that point, to bring together sort of to have a stronger feeling of the FPMT Sangha, the IMI, the International Mahayana Institute. Lama Yeshe organised this Dharma celebration. He called it. There were a few months, a couple of 6 weeks in Bodh Gaya, and then there was a break for Tibetan New Year, and then it continued in Dharamsala, Tushita Retreat Centre, with some initiations and teachings from His Holiness Song Rinpoche, and there was teaching on Mahamudra by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and other teachings by Ling Rinpoche and Sekong Rinpoche. So it was a huge Dharma celebration, and most of it consisted of getting initiations and commentaries on those tantric practices that we were initiated into, mainly by His Holiness Song Rinpoche. So the whole thing kicked off the beginning of January in 82. So when the lay students found out that Lama Yeshe was putting this together for the monks and nuns, they started moaning and groaning and crying and complaining that they were being discriminated against. So Lama Yeshe bent to their wishes and said, okay, lay people can come too. So it finished up probably being 150, 200 people there. And it was the first Enlightened Experience celebration. I don't know if you get the Lama Yeshe Wisdom Archive monthly e-letter. We send out this thing, but I think the one we just sent out, I should know, had the teaching from Ling Rinpoche that he gave us at that talk that Ling Rinpoche gave at that Enlightened Experience. It was called Dharma Celebration. Then he changed the name, Lama Yeshe, to Enlightened Experience Celebration. And there was supposed to be a second one. That was the first one. The second, we called it EEC1. So we lasted, EEC lasted almost as long as the actual EEC. Well, the EEC still exists, I guess, just without Britain. Okay, getting off track here. So that's kicked off with Lama Zopa Rinpoche giving the Rinjung Gyatso. He finished up giving half of it in the first 6 weeks. So it's just a series of, they're not full initiations, they're called Jenang. The Jenang is like a permission to practice, so it's like initiation light. But it gives you permission to practice the deity and recite the mantra and visualize yourself as the deity and so forth, which you can't do without some kind of empowerment. So there are in the, and Wisdom published a book in the 90s called Tibetan Deities of Tibetan Buddhism. Big, heavy book, full color with all these Rinjung Gyatso deities, the little paintings of them with their mantras and all different things. So we received empowerment into hundreds of deities over the years. But there comes a point where you have to kind of focus. And so you ask your teacher, you know, which is, of all these different deities, which is the one with whom I have the strongest connection? Which is the one that should be my main practice? And so then your Lama will tell you. And that becomes your flavorite deity, your mind-bound deity, your yidam, your... that's the main deity you practice. And when there are different things going on where you have to visualize yourself as a deity, like when we do Guru Puja at the beginning, we don't really stop for that, but there's a part where you visualize yourself, where you dissolve everything into emptiness, and out of emptiness you arise as the deity. I don't know if you remember that bit, it's near the beginning of the Guru Puja. So there you would arise as your yidam, as your mind-bound deity, usually. So there was a kind of self-deprecating little saying in Tibet where the Tibetan practitioners compared themselves to the great Indian practitioners. And they said, in Tibet, we practice hundreds of deities and don't achieve any of them. Whereas in India, the yogis would practice one deity and achieve them all. So, you know, all these different deities are aspects of the enlightened mind. If you become enlightened, you achieve all the deities. You know. So and you could manifest as any of them yourself. You know, depending on the karma of your disciples. So Lama Yeshe's main deity was Chakrasamvara, Haruka Chakrasamvara, and that was the lineage that came down from Tilopa and Naropa in India, and then Mapa, the translator, was a disciple of Naropa, and he would go from Tibet to India to take teachings and initiations from Naropa and bring back the lineages and the texts and so on back to Tibet, and he'd translate them. And then he had a bunch of disciples, the most famous of whom was Milarepa. And then Milarepa had some disciples like Rechungpa and Gampopa. And Gampopa was the one who actually started the Kagyu lineage. You know, some of you might have met Karmapa at the center 2 or 3 years ago. So he's kind of the head of the Karma Kagyu lineage. There are different Kagyu schools. There's a Drigung Kagyu school. Lama Sonam's center is in Arlington, you know Lama Sonam. It's Drigung Kagyu center. So there are some different schools in the Kagyu, but the Kagyu was started by I think Gampopa. He was a doctor, Tagpo Laji, and he wrote this really fantastic Kagyu Lamrim text called Jewel Ornament of Liberation. So it's possible Lama Zopa Rinpoche suggested that we publish Lama's teachings out that came from the Six Yogas of Naropa, because that was Lama's main practice. So yeah, Tibetans practice hundreds of deities, don't achieve any of them. You know, you're all over the place, too scattered. If you focus on one, you can achieve them all. So if you're doing if you're doing a practice strictly and doing actual sadhana from the highest yoga tantra, which would involve your visualizing yourself as the deity, you certainly can't do that without empowerment and without initiation and commentary from a teacher. And these sadhanas are, sometimes they can be quite short, but the commentaries on them can be very big, you know. But when you pull out a particular circumscribed practice, like inner heat, or Lama Yeshe used to call it the seed syllable meditation, because you visualize this seed like hot ember at your inside central channel of your navel. A seed syllable, do you know what a seed syllable is? A seed syllable is a syllable that represents the whole mantra, like the Tara mantra, Om Tara Tara Turi Soha. The seed syllable is Tum, the letter Tum. Or the Guru Shakyamuni mantra, Om Mune Mune Mahamunaya Soha. The seed syllable is Mum. We'd spell it M-U-M, but it's just a syllable. So in Sanskrit or Tibetan, it's just one letter. So I think in some practices of the inner heat meditation, you visualize the ember as an actual seed syllable, as a letter. I'm not sure which mantra would be the seed syllable of, or if it's the Heruka Chakrasamvara mantra or Vajrayogini mantra. I'm not sure what the seed syllables for those are. But anyway, Lama called it seed syllable meditation, but more generally it's called the inner heat or inner fire. And as I mentioned last week, he thought this practice could be useful for people who are drug dependent, to show that, satisfaction and happiness and bliss can arise from within, without having to depend on external substances. And as such could be taught by someone who doesn't know anything, i.e. me, and for a general public who had never practiced meditation before. So you can see it's not a simple meditation, it's quite a complex meditation, a lot of moving parts and a lot of stuff to visualize and imagine and try to experience. So, given that, and then, before he had me doing those courses, first time I remember Lama teaching was in 1975 on his world tour. And there were teachings in Australia. I was traveling with him that year, with him and Lamrim Rinpoche, and I was kind of the roadie, and I led the meditations and did different things. And so Lama first did that meditation, I think, in Melbourne, in Australia, in March, April 75, as I recall. I don't think we did it in Nepal. And then after the tour, then we started teaching it at Copan, doing it at the meditation courses, and then in 75 also taught it at Lake Arrowhead in Los Angeles, the first American Lamrim course that the Lamas gave. So I think in terms of not practicing without a teacher, it's if you're doing more complex advanced practices like a sadhana where you have to visualize yourself as a deity and so forth, you can't do it without having received empowerment from a qualified teacher and some explanations on the practice. But to extract a practice from a technique from a much larger, longer sadhana, I think it's probably okay to practice that even from a book. So I think that's all I got, Bob.
All right, thanks. Yeah, I was just curious about that apparent contradiction, because I know it's in the How to Meditate book published there.
Yeah. Well, everything depends. Okay, anything else? Anybody else, please? Sure. Scott.
So you already touched on this a little bit, and I feel like it's a broad question. So if you don't want to answer it or maybe leave it for another time, that's okay. But kind of on the same topic of the potential dangers of yoga or yoga method. It seems like, for instance, some people, if they're doing the generation stage, right, or something along those lines, they might trick themselves or into thinking that maybe they've gotten to a certain point that they haven't. And I don't know, I'm just kind of curious because it seems like some people actually have the ability to channel energy and things like this, but from their behavior, it becomes quite obvious that they're not enlightened in any way. Maybe they just have a kind of talent or something. I don't know. Maybe it's like you're born with it. So it at some point that actually caused a great anxiety in me, because I thought, well, if that can happen to somebody who has been practicing for many years and actually has had direct access to qualified teachers, I mean, it's just a scary thought. And I'm wondering if there's sort of a way of protecting oneself against that.
So what happened? Did somebody you know? Or?
No, I've seen examples of people who seem to be able to at least create the impression that they can channel energy and actually have an effect on others. And I don't know if it's just the power of suggestion or something like that. I'm thinking of for instance, the Buddha field, the so-called Buddha field group from the 80s, right? People like that.
What's that group?
They were known as the Buddha field, and I think their heyday was in the 80s, and they were a group from California and then later Texas. And it kind of revolved around this man who had immigrated, I think, from Spain originally, and he was famous for kind of walking around in a Speedo, and he would basically, go into a meditative state. At least this is what some of his former students have said, and sort of, say, oh, okay, I'm going to give you initiation or something to that effect. And then sort of, tapping them on the head, and people would say, oh yeah, I had a kind of a weird out of body experience or whatever. So the teacher seemed to have this kind of aura about him, right? But his actions, at least reported by his former students, would lead, I think, an impartial observer to believe, okay, this particular individual isn't very enlightened, right?
So we have to be very careful who you consider a teacher, who you accept as a teacher, and as I keep saying, this book on guru devotion really explains very clearly who's a qualified teacher and who's not, and how to relate to a teacher. And it's when even in Tibet, Buddhism began to be introduced around the year 650, and then with the king Songtsen Gampo, and then a couple of kings further on, Trisong Detsen, about 100 years later, invited Padmasambhava and Sangharakshita to Tibet to remove obstacles to the spread of Dharma. Padmasambhava, a big tantric yogi, and Sangharakshita established the monastic order in Tibet, and they created the first Tibetan monastery, Samye Ling, in southern Tibet. And so Buddhism began to develop, and then I think a couple of 100 years, 200 or 300 years later, an anti-Buddhist king came to power, and he wanted to get rid of Buddhism and re-establish the pre-Buddhist Bon tradition in Tibet. So he really tried his best to eradicate Buddhism from Tibet, and certainly succeeded to a larger extent in central Tibet, and Buddhism kind of got pushed out to the edges. Then he was assassinated by a Buddhist monk who couldn't stand to see what was happening. So then the field was wide open, and then so all these charlatans started coming in from India and Nepal, pretend gurus, and teaching weird practices and having sex with people and collecting offerings and money and introducing weird practices that maybe they made up, or I don't know exactly. But so that's when this king, Lalami Yeshe, got very in far western Tibet, over near Ngari, Tsaparang, Turling, over that, near Mount Kailash in the west. He invited Atisha to come to Tibet to re-establish pure Buddhist teachings, and that's why Atisha finished up coming and writing the first Lamrim text, crystallizing all the Buddha's 40 years of teachings into this particular Lamrim genre that he created that we know and love, you know. So, and which is, you know, the essence of Tibetan Buddhism, really. So that happened. So I think when, you know, people in America started to know that there was Eastern spirituality and people started going to the East, probably, you know, in the 50s, maybe after the war, in the 50s and 60s. And then yoga started taking off, and then the Indian yoga teachers came here. I mean, there was, you know, spirit. I think the American people, all Western people, were kind of spiritually naive, and so very susceptible to being misled. So I would say that's probably. I mean, I don't know who this guy in the Speedos is, but I'm glad he chose an Australian product. That is an Australian company, by the way. You know those little Speedos? We call them budgie smugglers. It looks like you're smuggling a budgerigar. Anyway.
What's a budgie? What is that?
Budgerigar, canary, you know, little bird.
Oh, bird.
They're called budgie smugglers. A recent Australian Prime Minister, Tony Abbott, used to parade around in his budgie smugglers. Okay, we're really off topic now. But at least you've learned about budgie smugglers. So I don't know who this guy was, but you know, there's all kinds of trips. There was who are those? Gate. What was it? Heaven's Gate. It's like a spiritual Watergate. I don't think it was called Heaven's Gate with the same idea as Watergate or you know, all the other gates, but it's and you know, people have delusion. Maybe this guy really thought he was enlightened. There was one guy. We were at Copan in the it was the 5th meditation course in the fall of '73, and Lama Zopa Rinpoche gave at the end of the course, the Copan meditation course, the 5th course. Rinpoche gave Chenrezig initiation to 1,000 Arm Chenrezig, and one of the students who'd been studying for a couple of years, he studied in Dharamsala at the Tibetan Library, and he came to Copan and did the course. He completely lost it, and he disappeared from Copan. He left his wife and child were there. Child was 2 or 3 years old, I guess, and he disappeared, and nobody knew where he'd gone. And then he was found wandering around in the fields around Kathmandu, half naked, saying he was Chenrezig. You know, he'd received initiation into Chenrezig. My favorite white cat. And he had to be shipped home, and he spent the rest of his life until I think he passed away recently, or may even still be alive, institutionalized in California. He had some kind of psychotic break, and that was, I mean, you have to kind of look at his karma, and you know, there were 200 other people who went through exactly the same appearance. 200 other people who went through exactly the same experience, and nothing happened to them. And I don't know if he'd had a history. His wife became a nun soon after, at the same time when I got ordained, and she's still a nun now, 40-something years later. And the little boy went into Kopan Monastery, and he was a monk for a number of years. Then he went to Sera Monastery in South India, but he didn't like it, so he left when he was about 16, and then went to did high school, the GED in Los Angeles, and then he went to Brandeis, got a degree from Brandeis, and then he lived in Boston. He married a Tibetan woman and lived in Boston, but tragically he killed himself. He was about 40 years old, about 10 or 12 years ago. It's terrible. But so I don't know. I mean, you don't physically inherit this sort of tendency for psychological instability, but his father was institutionalized, and he finished up. A lot of people kill themselves whose fathers aren't institutionalized. So it really ultimately comes down to our individual karma, together with the circumstances. But I've forgotten your original question, Scott.
No, you definitely answered it, but it was just basically, is there a way to protect oneself, from these kind of pitfalls, delusions of grandeur and things like that might happen?
Well, generally, yes, you can take all precautions, and a lot of these things don't come out of the blue necessarily. I mean, people may have a history of problems in adolescence and so on, but the main thing is to be very, very careful in who you choose as your main teacher. That's the most important thing. And in our tradition, it's generally, if someone is a monk or a nun and leading a pure life, and no what can I say, dubious conduct, and that we know about, and so on, then I think that's probably a good person. Like Eshelard at the center. I think he's a very good monk. There's never been a hint of inappropriate behavior on his part, and he's very sincere. I mean, he's doing these Zoom sessions with every night, and doing his regular teachings on Sundays and Wednesdays, and just spending his whole time trying to benefit sentient beings, I think. And he's a Geshe, so he's gone through the education system. I mean, someone like that is pretty safe, I would have thought, And he doesn't walk around in budgie smugglers. So I wanted to do this meditation with you tonight. How's the time now? I think it's okay. We'll go through it maybe a little quicker than I'd hoped, but and if you want a copy of this meditation and you have not yet sent your email address to Bob at kurukulla.org, send your email address to Bob and he will send this out to you if you want it. So Rinpoche's preamble, the preface is, life is very busy, especially for people living in the West. He actually gave this in Taiwan, but I guess people consider that everywhere is the West these days. Many people say, therefore, that it's difficult to find the time during a busy day for regular meditation practice. In this case, the best solution is to get up earlier each morning. Getting up early is a good habit to develop. It follows the example of all the practitioners who have attained the path. And because it's very quiet, Early morning is also a good time to meditate. In this way, you'll be able to do your practice. If you put off your practice until the very end of the day, you might forget it completely because you're distracted by television or something else, or because you're too tired, especially if you have children. The best time to find peace and quiet for practice is generally after the children have gone to bed or before they wake up in the morning and demand your attention. Many people reject rituals because they do not understand the purpose and the meaning of ritual. Done correctly, the following practices are not mere ritual, they are meditation. Without meditation, ritual becomes like a hollow orange with skin on the outside but empty inside. Each of these preliminary practices contains the entire path to enlightenment. If you understand the meaning behind them, the rituals taught by Buddha are actually not separate from the entire path to enlightenment. Of course, you need purification and a large collection of merit to be able to have faith in and to understand this. While this meditation that we're about to do is based on Guru Shakyamuni Buddha, it can be adapted to suit other practices by altering the visualization and the mantra recitation. So you could do this, you could slot your yidam, your personal deity, into this practice instead of the Buddha. So it's called a daily meditation on Shakyamuni Buddha, how to meditate on the graduated path to enlightenment, the preliminaries. So the motivation is a little bit longer than the one we usually do. First, it says, set up an altar in front of your meditation seat with as many offerings as you can of the best possible quality. Bless each offering you put on the altar by reciting Om Ah Hum. Then seated comfortably on your meditation seat. So normally I've got my back to the altar. That's not how we do it. Normally you'd be facing the altar. But this is how teachings are given in a gompa, with the teacher sitting beside or in front of the altar. Then you think, how extremely lucky I am that I've not died yet. I'm especially lucky that my death didn't happen last night. How wonderful and fortunate it is that today I'm still a human being, a state that is extremely rare. So we've talked about that enough. But this is not all. I have a perfect human body, which is also extremely rare. I've met the virtuous friend who reveals the unmistaken, complete path to enlightenment, and who is extremely difficult to meet. And I have met the Buddha Dharma, which is also extremely difficult to meet. So we've met a lot of things that are difficult to meet. Having this body at this auspicious time when all these teachings are available, having met a teacher that teaches a complete path to enlightenment, and we've met the Buddha Dharma, which teaches, which is that path. Since I've met all these extraordinarily fortunate circumstances, I should not waste my life in any way. I should make my life as useful as possible for the infinite other sentient beings. Their peace and happiness depend on me, and my happiness is received only from their kindness. The greater use of my life to other sentient beings, the more it becomes the means to achieve success and happiness for myself. So, it's what His Holiness the Dalai Lama often says, wise selfishness. Selfishness is okay if you're smart about it, and the way to be smart about it, if you want the best, selfishness is wanting the best for yourself. So if you want the best for yourself, forget about yourself and devote yourself entirely to the happiness of others. And in that way, you'll come to realize the greatest happiness for yourself as kind of, a byproduct of dedicating yourself to the happiness of others. The purpose of my life is to free all sentient beings from suffering and its causes, negative karmas and disturbing thoughts, and to lead them not only to the ultimate happiness of self-liberation, freedom merely from the sufferings of samsara, but to the peerless happiness of full enlightenment as well. This is my responsibility. I am responsible for the happiness of all sentient beings. Why? Because whether my actions are helpful or harmful to them depends completely on my own mind, on whether I have compassion or not. By generating compassion, I immediately benefit numberless other sentient beings. At the very least, I do not harm them. So as His Holiness often says too, the essence of the practice of Buddhism can be summed up in the phrase, if you can't help others, at least don't harm them. So that what that's saying is that it's preferable if we can spend our time helping, benefiting other sentient beings. But if that is beyond us, at the very least, we should not give them harm. And, and that's the first obligation of becoming a Buddhist, of taking refuge, is to not harm other sentient beings, especially not to kill them. The ultimate purpose of my life is to do perfect work for others. In order to fulfill that purpose, it's necessary for me to achieve the state of full enlightenment, omniscient mind. And in order to do that, I must actualize the path to enlightenment. Therefore, I'm going to do actions that become only causes for me to achieve enlightenment and to bring all sentient beings to enlightenment as quickly as possible. May all my actions become only causes for me to achieve enlightenment and to bring all sentient beings to enlightenment as quickly as possible. So then I'll just go through these other preliminaries a little quickly now. If we had more time, if I hadn't spent so much time talking about budgie smugglers, we could have done this more slowly, but here we are. But I'll send you this, and if you want to do this practice, it's a really fantastic practice. If you can do it, not every day, maybe, but if once a week or twice a week or something, if you could do this whole thing slowly over an hour or two, would be really amazing. So first is taking refuge. So when we, generally when we start practice, I don't normally do that in these sessions, but if you go to teachings at the center or if you have teachings online with Geshe-la, we have a bunch of, 10 or 15 minutes of prayers. Do you still do those, Bob? That encompass all these various, taking refuge, generating bodhicitta, the four immeasurables, praise of Shakyamuni Buddha, the Lam Tsongkhapa Guru Yoga, Heart Sutra, Mandala offering, and then again the prayer for taking refuge, generating bodhicitta. So this series of practices was put together by our previous resident teacher, Geshe Tinley's uncle, Geshe Tsulga, who was our resident teacher at Kurukulla Center for 17 or 18 years. And that really encompasses all these different practices for purification and creation of merit. But generally we take refuge in order to distinguish ourselves from non-Buddhists who don't take refuge in Buddha Dharma Sangha, and we generate bodhicitta to distinguish ourselves from practitioners of the individual liberation path, the so-called Hinayana, the lesser vehicle, to establish ourselves, reaffirm ourselves as practitioners of Mahayana, the great vehicle, whose goal is enlightenment, not just individual liberation, for myself alone. So we do this 3 times. Guru is Buddha, Guru is Dharma, Guru is also Sangha, the Guru is the creator of all happiness. In all gurus I take refuge. Then we take refuge and generate bodhicitta. So again, we recite these verses 3 times. With the thought desiring to liberate transmigratory beings, I always take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until the heart of enlightenment is achieved. With perseverance, acting with wisdom, compassion, and loving kindness, in front of the Buddhas for the benefit of sentient beings, I generate the thought of full enlightenment. So we do those 2 verses 3 times. And then we generate our vision from ordinary, as being in an ordinary place with clutter and all stuff around us. We generate it's this prayer called Purifying the Place, where we try to visualize our environment as a pure land, as a Buddha field. Savior, we do everywhere may the ground be pure, free of pebbles and so forth, as level as the palm of your hand, in the nature of sapphire and soft. Then we do an invocation. We, having purified the place, we invite all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas into our presence. Savior of all sentient beings, without exception, divine destroyer of the unbearable hordes of Maras and their forces, perfect knower of all things without exception, Bhagawan, Buddha, together with your retinue, please come here. So we visualize the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas coming into our meditation space and watching over us and helping us with our practice. So then whatever offerings we've made, actual offerings we've made on the altar, or the offerings we visualized, we bless, multiply, and present those offerings. So there's a prayer, may divine human offerings, both actually arranged, that we do, whether it's flowers, incense, offering bowls, food, whatever offerings we've made on our altar, both actually arranged and mentally emanated. So here we can only visualize, we can only do a limited number of physical offerings, but we can visualize and offer all, so Lama Zopa Rinpoche's houses in his primary residence in Aptos, a retreat center in Washington. Then there's the whole, his residence at Kopan Monastery, and then where he does huge, extensive offerings with hundreds of water bowls and all kinds of other things. And there are a number of students of his, particularly in the East, who've taken the line, and their houses are full of offerings and really mind-blowing offerings that they make. So there's one particular woman called Lillian too, who's a big feng shui person in the world of feng shui, and her house is unbelievable. Every room has all these tankas and altars and extensive offerings. I think the downside is she has her servants do it, so maybe they get most of the merit. There was, I think Atisha used to do his own water bowl and light offerings, and his servants would say, Master, you just stay there, we'll do the offerings. He said, yeah, you do the offerings, and when I'm hungry, are you going to eat for me as well? So, so it's best if we don't have our servants do the offerings, but we do them ourselves. Both actually arranged and mentally emanated. So as well as offering all these other people's offerings, and in the monasteries and in Tibet and in Nepal and in India, in Thailand, wherever there are monasteries and altars and offerings, we can offer them as well. And not only that, but we visualize offerings in the Pure Land, with, anyway, I don't have time to do that now, but, vast, infinite offerings we can visualize as we visualize our environment as a Pure Land. We visualize these mountains of precious substances and incense and lakes, sweet smelling lakes, and tables groaning with the most amazing food, and piles of jewels, and clouds of incense smoke and incredible light offerings. You can really visualize amazing offerings. They become clouds of the finest Samantabhadra offerings, filling the entire realm of space. So sometimes you can practice like we did we do trying to visualize sentient beings last time and in the different realms sort of surrounding us. Also, you can practice visualizing environment as a pure land, where there's no suffering, even the word suffering doesn't exist. And all you hear is, there are beautiful trees and the wind, the breeze whistling through the trees brings the sound of Dharma, and there are birds chirping in the trees, and they're all chirping Dharma teachings, and you have all these amazing offerings, So if we create an environment, the world we see isn't out there existing as it is coming at us. What we see is creation of our own mind, our environment, and none of us sees the same thing in the same way. So if we can strongly visualize Pure Lands, eventually we'll be born in one. So then there's offering cloud mantra that we recite 3 times to bless, multiply the offerings to become numberless, and offer them with this offering cloud mantra. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Paramaham Tathagata Ara Sang Sambuddhaya Taitam Benza Benzama Benzama Tez Benzama Biju Benzama Bodhijita Benzama Bodhimanda Savakama Avarana Vijanana Benza Soha. So we do that mantra 3 times. And then we do the power of the truth with this verse: the offering that you visualized as numberless actually appear to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and are received. By the power of the truth of the 3 rare sublime ones, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, the blessings of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, the great wealth of the completed 2 types of merit, merit of wisdom, merit of method, and the pure and inconceivable sphere of phenomena, may these piles of clouds of offerings arising through transformation by the Bodhisattvas, Arya Samantabhadra, Manjushri, and so forth, unimaginable and inexhaustible, equaling the sky, arise. And in the presence of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, the 10 directions be received. So then we do prostrations with the prostration mantra 3 times, Om Namo Manjushri, Namo Sushri, Namo Tamashri Soha. Then we do Shakyamuni prayer with prostrations. So 3 times that one. We can do it in English. To the Guru, Teacher, Bhagavan, Tagadara, Perfect Complete Buddha, Glorious Conqueror Shakyamuni, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. Please grant me your blessings. So we do that 3 times. So those are the preliminaries. So, I just rushed through them because of time now, but if you can do them more slowly and think about them and figure out what they mean, it's extremely rich. Okay, so now I'm going to describe visualization. So, you can just close your eyes and sit in the meditation posture and visualize what I'm going to say. At the level of my forehead, your forehead, about 2 meters in front of me, so this is in the first person, so you think of yourself. At the level of my forehead, about 2 meters in front of me, is a large golden throne. It is beautifully adorned with jewels and supported at each corner by a pair of snow lions. So the snow lions, you see them, they're white with green manes and standing on their hind legs and supporting the throne in their front with their front paws, 2 at each corner. So these represent the 8 great bodhisattvas. On the throne is a fully blossomed lotus, and on that are the sun and moon discs. So the lotus, so there's a golden throne, there's a white lotus, fully opened, 1,000 petals, and on that, top of that, there's a golden sun, like a flat moon cushion. And on top of that is a white moon cushion, moon disc. So it's golden throne, white lotus, golden sun, white moon, and then sitting on that, upon the lotus, sun and moon, sits Guru Shakyamuni, who's achieved perfect cessation of all suffering and obscurations and has attained all perfect realizations. He's the manifestation of the omniscient mind of all the Buddhas, the ultimate Guru. He's inseparable from my root Guru, who shows me the unmistaken path and is bound by infinite compassion to me and all sentient beings. So I've talked about visualization meditation. We've mentioned it quite a few times over the last few weeks. So this is it. So we visualize, what we visualize, we don't visualize as solid. The whole thing's made of light. Throne is made of light, golden throne. The lions, the white lions supporting the golden throne, they're made of light. And it's not flat like you look at a painting, like a tanka. It's three-dimensional and it's radiating light. So the golden throne, the white lotus, the moon disc, the sun disc, the moon disc, and Guru Shakyamuni Buddha. Buddha sitting on that. His holy body is in the nature of golden light, is very magnificent. He wears the 3 saffron robes of a monk. His face is beautiful and has a loving smile. His compassionate eyes look toward me, but simultaneously encompass all sentient beings. His eyes are long, narrow, and fine. His gaze is very peaceful. His eyes are half closed, half open. His lips are red. His hair is blue-black, and each hair is individually curled to the right. On the crown of his head is a pinnacle called the Ushnisha. So that's the pointed crown we see on top of Buddha's head, which one of the 32 major marks of a Buddha. The palm of his right hand rests on his right knee, the middle finger touching the moon cushion. So that's called the earth-touching mudra. His left hand rests in his lap in the mudra of meditation, holding an alms bowl filled with nectar. He's seated in the Vajra posture, in the full lotus posture, in the center of an aura of light, like sunbeams. So light is radiating from his holy golden body. So like each pore, there's a beam of light going out infinitely into space. And actually the robes that he's wearing, the monk's robes, don't touch his body, but they're separated from it by a distance of about an inch due to the power of his realizations. Each feature of his holy body represents an aspect of his omniscient mind, his inner realizations, and also demonstrates the causes, the merits collected in the past. So each aspect of an enlightened being's body, the 32 major marks and the 80 minor marks, are all a result of collection of different kinds of merit. No matter how much one looks at Guru Shakyamuni Buddha, one never feels satiated. The supreme refuge, Guru Shakyamuni Buddha, encompasses Guru, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. From his holy body, beams are emitted in all 10 directions, and numberless manifestations of Guru Shakyamuni Buddha are transformed on the tips of these beams to ripen the infinite sentient beings. So from each pore, there's like a laser beam of light radiates out. At the tip of each beam, there's a miniature Guru Shakyamuni Buddha, destined to reach a sentient being and lead that being to enlightenment. So as there are infinite, numberless sentient beings, there are infinite beams of light radiating. So actually, if you look carefully at these beams of light, actually each beam contains miniature Shakyamuni Buddhas. When they go out, there's a Shakyamuni Buddha on the tip, but then when the sentient beings become enlightened, those Buddhas come back along the beam of light and reabsorb into the Guru Shakyamuni Buddha's holy body. So if you look at all these beams of light, there are some with Buddhas going out and some with Buddhas coming in. So it's a really dynamic, not a static visualization. Looking at me with compassionate eyes, Guru Shakyamuni Buddha says, child of the lineage, if you want to be liberated from the suffering of samsara, I will guide you. So he happily promises this and also promises to free me from the lower realms. So now in front of Shakyamuni Buddha, we take refuge. So visualize it, around you are seated the infinite father and mother sentient beings. So we talked last week, I think, about how to visualize all sentient beings. So we can visualize them as coming from the 6 realms in human form, surrounding us infinitely. They're in human form, but experiencing the different sufferings of the particular realm. I think it's probably the best way to do this time. And they're completely intoxicated with the unimaginable infinite sufferings of each of the 6 realms. They're wide-eyed, desperately looking for refuge, pitifully calling for help. So then think, circling continuously in samsara's 6 realms, I've been tormented by suffering from beginningless rebirths until now, and I still haven't become liberated from it. Fortunately, this time, I received a perfect human body. Because of my good fortune, I've met the most sublime teaching of Buddha Dharma, revealed by the teacher, Guru Shakyamuni Buddha. I have no certainty that I will not die today. My death could happen even today. If I were to die today, I would have no freedom to choose the realm in which I'm reborn. I could fall down the precipice into one of the 3 realms of one of the 3 lower realms. I should think carefully about whether I'd be able to bear those sufferings for even 1 second. Even if I were to achieve the body of a deva, a god, or a human, which is extremely unlikely, because nearly all the karma I've created since being in this time is negative, cause for lower rebirth, I would still be ceaselessly tormented by many hundreds of sufferings in the upper realms, such as birth, sickness, old age, and death, dissatisfaction, anxiety, relationship problems, and so forth. And after that, I would again fall down into the lower realms. There is nothing to trust about being in the upper realms. This one time, I've obtained a perfect human body with freedoms and richnesses. and being guided by the sublime virtuous friend who reveals a path, and have the wisdom to discriminate between the shortcomings of samsara and the benefits of liberation. Therefore, I should quickly achieve liberation from this terrifying samsara. To generate strong renunciation of all of it. Yet to liberate only myself from samsara is not sufficient. This is not the meaning of my life. Numberless sentient beings equaling the limitless sky are wandering in the suffering states of samsara, and they have all been my mothers and have been kind to me. Therefore, I must liberate them and lead them to the peerless happiness of full enlightenment. Who is the refuge and guide who liberates from the great ocean of beginningless samsara? There is none other than the three rare sublime ones. The teacher, the fully enlightened one, Buddha, the Dharma, the scriptures and realizations, and the Sangha, the supreme assembly. Therefore, together, I and each and every one of the transmigratory beings equaling the sky take refuge in the Guru and Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So visualize you're leading all sentient beings in taking refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Pushed by the positive fear of cyclic existence and drawn by faith in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha in their ability to save us from all that suffering. So then we take refuge in four objects, Guru, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, one by one. So with respect to these refuge prayers, it says, recite each refuge prayer 3 times or any number of times you wish in English or Sanskrit while doing the visualizations for purifying negative karma and increasing qualities. Think that Guru Shakyamuni Buddha is pleased because you're relying on Guru, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So when we take refuge in the Guru, so first we do purifying negative karmas. So while taking refuge in the Guru, visualize that 5 color beams of light, with white the strongest, are emitted from Guru Shakyamuni Buddha. So the other colors are green, red, yellow, and blue. But white, for purification, we emphasize the white. So while taking refuge in the Guru, visualize that these beams enter your body and the bodies of all sentient beings, purifying in particular the negative karmas and obscurations collected from beginningless rebirths in relation to gurus, such as by harming their holy bodies, disregarding their advice, disturbing their holy minds, generating non-devotional thoughts about them, belittling, criticizing them, and so forth. All these negative karmas and obscurations leave through your lower orifices in the form of your lower orifices, sense organs, and pores as liquid smoke or coal. So, filthy black stuff. It just comes out of you. And you and all sentient beings are completely purified. So when we recite either I take refuge in the Guru, I take refuge in the Guru, I take refuge in the Guru, over and over. So if you have a rosary, you can just sit 7 times, or 21 times, or 108 times, 110, 108 times, however many beads on your rosary, you know. Or in Sanskrit, Namo Guru Be, Namo Guru Be, Namo Guru Be. So while you visualize, the Buddha that you visualized is sending you this 5-colored light with emphasis on the white aspect of it, and it's flushing out all your negativities through your lower orifices. So do that for a little while. Then the next part is increasing the qualities. While continuing to take refuge in the Guru, visualize that the 5-colored beams of light, with yellow the strongest, are emitted from the Guru Shakyamuni. So yellow or gold symbolizes the teachings. So the white light symbolizes purification. Golden light symbolizes the precious teaching. So while continue, visualize that 5 with yellow the strongest are emitted from Guru Shakyamuni Buddha. The beams, in essence, the qualities of Guru's holy body, speech, and holy mind, enter you and all sentient beings, causing your lifespan, merit, and qualities of scriptural understanding and realization to increase. In particular, you and all sentient beings receive the blessings of the Guru's holy body, holy speech, and holy mind. So again, we recite, 7, 21, 108, whatever times. Namo Guru Be, I take refuge in the Guru. Again, same thing. So the first recitations, you visualize purification, particularly the negativities created with the Guru. And then the second time, another set of recitations receiving from the visualized Guru Shakyamuni Buddha in front of you there, all his, wisdom, power, compassion, and blessings. You and all sentient beings. And your body becomes full of golden light. Your body and that of all sentient beings. At the end of the recitation, think that you and all sentient beings have completely come under the guidance of the Guru. So then we take refuge in the Buddha. So no, we don't have time to do this extensively, but it's the same idea. We recite Namo Buddhaya, or I take refuge in the Buddha, a number of times. And at that time, visualize purifying negative karmas and flushing those negativities out in the form of, liquid coal or thick, dirty liquid coming out from the lower parts of your body. And, it just comes out from under you and disappears, dissolves into nothingness. And you feel completely purified, you and all sentient beings. And then we continue to take refuge in the Buddha and receive the golden light. And this fills our bodies with the blessings of the Buddha and all the knowledge, like the 10 powers, the 4 fearlessness, the 18 unmixed qualities, and so forth. And at the end of the recitation, think that you and all sentient beings have completely come under the guidance of the Buddha. Then it's the same thing, take refuge in the Dharma, Namo Dhammaya, or I take refuge in the Dharma. You recite that 721, 108 times, whatever. And so the text has a detailed description of what you're purifying and the qualities that you're receiving. And then we take refuge in the Sangha. So again, we purify negativities created in particular with the Sangha, as well as all other negativities. And for 7, 21, 108 recitations, and then we do another 108, 21, 7 recitations while taking refuge in the Sangha, this time receiving their good qualities. So like that, we do extensive purification and receiving of blessings and knowledge from Buddha Dharma and Sangha, Guru Buddha Dharma Sangha, in the with the practice of taking refuge. So then we generate, again, we take refuge, generate bodhicitta. I take refuge to enlighten the Buddha Dharma Sangha, Supreme Assembly by merits of generosity and so forth. May I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. So we recite that 3 times. Then we do the 4 immeasurables. There's an extensive one here, which I won't go through. We know that. But, you know, they're immeasurable equanimity, immeasurable loving kindness, immeasurable compassion, immeasurable joy. So then there's the meditation on bodhicitta. Well, we generate again the bodhicitta motivation. Just as I've been suffering in samsara from beginningless time, so too have all my kind mother sentient beings who are so precious. They are the source of all my past, present, and future happiness and have been kind to me again and again, numberless times from beginningless time. Therefore, I have the responsibility to liberate all the numberless kind mother sentient beings from the unimaginable oceans of samsaric suffering and its causes. However, in my present state, not only am I unable to liberate others, I cannot even benefit myself. If I were to achieve the state of an arahat, liberated being, the work for myself would still not be complete and the work for others would be limited. Therefore, in order to complete the work for myself and others, I definitely need to achieve full enlightenment, state of Buddhahood. If I achieve this sublime state of Buddhahood, I will have ceased all the numberless mistakes and completed all qualities, and I will then be able to work effortlessly for all the kind mother transmigratory beings, equaling the extent of space. Therefore, in order to achieve full enlightenment quickly, I'm going to follow the example of the brave, extensive deeds of a bodhisattva in order to benefit others. In particular, I'm going to meditate on the stages of the path to enlightenment. So by generating the 4 immeasurables and bodhicitta, you collect more merit than could fill the sky, thus filling your life with great happiness. So when we do this practice in not so rushed a form in order to just get through it, you know, we spend time thinking these motivations and other parts slowly. So we read and think and visualize. So if we don't have time to read and think and visualize slowly every part, you know, if we do this practice daily or once a week, you know, then at different times we can focus more on one section or another, eventually doing each section extensively. And so in that way, over a period of years, we become very familiar with the practice. And as we continue our studies and receive other teachings and so forth, then, you know, we understand more and more what these different sections are about. So it has a deeper meaning, and each time we meditate on it, we understand it more and more deeply. So then we do the 7-limb prayer. So each of these has a little commentary, but I just read the 7 limbs. I prostrate reverently with my body, speech, and mind. I present clouds of every type of offering, both actually arranged and mentally emanated. So each of these has a benefit which is explained. I confess all my negative actions and downfalls collected from beginningless time. I rejoice in the virtues of ordinary beings and Aryas. So Lam Zopa Rinpoche often says that when we come to the rejoicing limb, we should really pause and go through it very slowly and really rejoice at these various different virtues of noble beings and ordinary beings. Please remain until the end of samsara. and turn the wheel of Dharma for transmigratory beings. And I dedicate my own and others' virtues to the great enlightenment. So these 7 limbs contain the essence of purification and creation of merit, and are very important to practice and meditate on, as it prepares our mind to receive realization. So when we meditate on the path, we'll have deeper and deeper understanding and eventually gain realizations. So then we do a mandala offering. So this is some explanation here. And we do the short mandala offering, this ground anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the 4 continents, sun and the moon. I imagine this is a Buddha land and offer it. May all transmigratory beings enjoy this pure land. So, the mandala offering mudra, and we do that. Then actually there's another verse. Due to the merits of offering this mandala to Guru Shakyamuni Buddha, may I, my family members, and all sentient beings be able to meet, practice, and actualize the teachings of the victorious one, Losang Dragpa, that's Lama Tsongkhapa, who lived an eminent life endowed with pure morality, a brave heart in doing the Bodhisattva's extensive deeds, and the yoga of the 2 stages. So that's the complete generation, complete station of Highest Yoga Tantra, the essence of which is the transcendental wisdom of non-dual bliss and emptiness. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryata Yami. So that finish the mandala. Then we do a request. Holy body created by 10 million excellent virtues, holy speech, fulfilling the hopes of infinite transmigratory beings, holy mind, seeing all objects of knowledge just as they are, to the principle of the Shakyas, I make requests. Guru Vajradhara, embodiment of all 3 refuges, takes the form of virtuous friends, gurus, to subdue beings in whatever way is needed and grants the supreme and common realizations. To the kind gurus, I make requests. Holy sublime field of merit, my perfect pure guru, by making offerings and requests to you, Saviour, sole root of all happiness and goodness, please bless me to be happily guided by you. Magnificent precious root guru, please abide on the lotus seat on my crown, guide me with your great kindness, and grant me the realizations of your holy body, speech, and mind. So at this point, I think we can visualize. So we visualize Guru Shakyamuni, 6 feet in front of us on throne supported by lions, lotus, sun and moon discs, the Guru Shakyamuni Buddha. So he comes to the crown, the whole thing comes to the crown of your head. The lions, lotus, sun, the lotus throne, lotus, sun and moon, Guru Shakyamuni. So he comes to the crown of your head and sort of turns around to face the same direction as you. So then we do the Lamrim prayer, the foundation of all good qualities. I won't read that now, but I think you're familiar with that. So then we recite the mantra of Guru Shakyamuni Buddha. So when we went through the foundation of all good qualities with commentary by Kunu Lamrim, didn't we? So when he gave us that teaching, I think I sent you the link to it, and there was part at the end that we didn't have time to go through in the class. But he said he didn't have anything to give us except this mantra of Shakyamuni Buddha. So we received a transmission of this mantra from him, and he sort of instructed us, the monks and nuns who were present at the teaching, and sort of instructed us and sort of empowered us to transmit this mantra to others. So if you can repeat, I'll do it 3 times in bits. So if you repeat each bit after me, then I'm passing this mantra from Kurukulla Lamrim on to you as he enabled us to do. So, repeat after me. Tayata, Om, Mune Mune, Maha Munaye, Soha. Tayata, Om, Mune Mune, Maha Munaye, Soha. Tayata, Om, Mune Mune, Maha Munaye, Soha. Lama Yeshe always used to start his teachings, Tayata Om Mune Mune Maha Munaye Soha. So he would do it 3 times or 7 times, something like that. Anyway, so you now have connection with Kurukulla Lama Rinpoche. However flimsy it is coming through me, but he had a purpose for saying that. So here in this practice, as you recite the mantra, you visualize white light radiating from Buddha's heart. So I think this point we've brought the visualization to the crown of our head. Maybe it comes later. No, I think it's good here. So when you recite this mantra, Tayata Om Mune Mune Maha, so this time the white light comes down from the Buddha's heart into the crown of your head and flushes out all the negativities from the lower parts of your body. And it enters your body, speech, and mind, and all disease, spirit harm, negative karma, obscurations are washed out, if you like, dirt being washed out of a cloth. So you recite the mantra 7, 21, 108 times, whatever you can. Then as you continue reciting the mantra, then you visualize yellow light coming from Buddha's heart, entering your body and receiving all the qualities of the Buddha's holy body, holy speech, holy mind. In particular, your mind is transformed into the perfect wisdom of Buddha's omniscient mind, and you attain the Buddha's perfect compassion and perfect power. You become a perfect guide, able to fulfill the wishes of all sentient beings and bring them every happiness, especially the highest happiness of enlightenment. So at the end of the mantra recitation, think the sufferings of sentient beings are unbearable. Even the problems of one sentient being are unbearable. So generate strong determination to free every sentient being from the ocean of samsaric suffering and their causes. Not only that, also make the determination to take upon yourself every sentient being suffering and problems along with their causes, karma and delusions, and to bring them to the ultimate happiness of liberation from samsara and the peerless happiness of full enlightenment. Make the determination to live your life with a good heart, great compassion and loving kindness for all sentient beings, even politicians, and to work to free them from sufferings and their causes and bring them to full enlightenment. Think that because you've generated this thought to benefit all sentient beings, and because you're making your life worthwhile, the Buddha is extremely pleased with you. So then the conclusion is absorption. So just again, just visualize, sit in meditation, close your eyes, visualize. Now this Buddha, this whole visualization that we've made is above the crown of your head. So now visualize that the lions dissolve upwards into the throne. The throne dissolves upwards into the lotus. The lotus dissolves into the sun cushion, the round, flat, golden disc. That dissolves into the moon cushion. And all that dissolves into Guru Shakyamuni Buddha. So then he melts into light and dissolves into you, like pouring into you through the crown of your head, like into your central channel, and then spreading from there through your whole body, this blissful golden light. So Guru Shakyamuni Buddha, who is the essence of all Buddhas, Dharma and Sangha, melts into light and absorbs into you, and you become completely one with Guru Shakyamuni Buddha's holy body, speech, and mind. So then you are transformed into Buddhas, into Guru Shakyamuni Buddha. So you visualize yourself as Guru Shakyamuni Buddha, just as you visualized before, with the golden holy body, radiating light, with the robes of the monk and all those different signs, seated on a lion-supported throne, lotus, sun and moon. And at your heart is a moon disc with the mantra Tayata Omunamune Mahamune. So clockwise around the edge, standing like a picket fence around there. And in the center of the moon disc at your heart is the seed syllable mum. So then light rays radiate out from the mantra and moon disc at your heart through every pore of your body, radiating out, and you send out little miniatures of yourself as Shakyamuni Buddha on these light beams, and each one reaches a sentient being. And each little Buddha that you send out, a replica of yourself, tiny replica of yourself, as it reaches each sentient being, it alights on their head and dissolves into them, and they're transformed into Guru Shakyamuni Buddha. And they all become enlightened. So you visualize all sentient beings as enlightened in the aspect of Guru Shakyamuni Buddha, and then you think, now I've enlightened all sentient beings as I set out to do at the beginning of this practice. So then to conclude, then we do a bunch of different dedications. So there's a couple of pages of those, so I won't read them, but we just think, as we often do, may, because of this merit, so we've created a lot of merit by doing this practice and all these things. So I think because of this merit, may I quickly reach enlightenment. May I quickly reach enlightenment for the sole purpose of enlightening all sentient beings. So sorry I had to rush through that a bit, but maybe another time we could do the whole thing more slowly and savor each step. But in the meantime, Bob will kindly send it out. I'll send it to Bob. He can kindly send it out to you. And if you can study this meditation and then practice it, obviously. Then that would really be amazing. And this is what we mean when we say a sadhana, a method of accomplishment. It has all these different elements of purifying and creating merit and visualizing and so forth. And there's another way to conclude it, but I can't do that now. But when you visualize the absorption, when the Buddha dissolves into you, instead of immediately transforming you into the Buddha, you can also visualize as when the Buddha absorbs into you, immediately everything disappears. The way you see yourself, the way you feel yourself, the way you see the world, everything becomes completely empty. And your mind becomes one with Guru Shakyamuni Buddha's enlightened mind in the aspect of infinite empty space, which is radiant, pure, clear light, and extremely blissful. So then you meditate single-pointedly on that. So that's helping develop single-pointed concentration on emptiness, as best we can imagine it. And then after some time meditating on emptiness like that, then instantly you appear where you're sitting in the aspect of Guru Shakyamuni Buddha, sitting on the light-supported throne lotus, sun and moon in the aspect of Shakyamuni Buddha. And then we do the enlightening all sentient beings. That's another way to conclude that practice. Anyway, so that's it. So have a look at it. Try it out if you have any questions. So I don't know if you're coming back next time, but next week is off, and then we're starting on transforming problems 2 weeks from tonight. So in the meantime, try to practice this meditation. And if you have any questions, you can email me, nick@lamayeshi.com, or we can talk about them next time. So we dedicated, that's it.
Thank you, Nick.
Okay. Any last wishes, anybody?
Thank you very much, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Okay, sounds good to me. Okay,
Thank you.
thanks, Bob. Thanks, everybody. Nice.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you
evening.
for being here.